All right, we should be live, Jay. Yo, it's the real pizza party stream.
How's that shot looking?
I'll have to wait till it comes up. The mic should be on. We remembered to do the mic this week. And, man, we got a lot to chat about today, Jay. I'm excited. Well, I have a couple things I wanted to discuss with you. But, yeah, if you're just joining the live stream, it's your first stream, thanks for coming through. I'm Mike from 424 Recording. Joining me, as always, is Jay from Operation Audio and Bohemesphere Studio. And, yeah, we're just going to kick things off for another Wednesday night hang. And hopefully see some familiar faces. We got Twin coming through. What up? Turtleneck here. What's going on, Turtleneck? Coops here. What up? Matt. Jason. Man, we got the whole crew up in here.
Goddamn, we're like fucking washed the fuck out though, huh?
Are we? Oh shit! Yeah, it looks like.
Here's your pipe. Looks like we're in a dark closet.
Yeah. All right, Jay's gonna work his magic. Yeah, we got the pizza from Saugerties, New York.
I can't remember how the fuck you turn those lights on.
Hashtag not sponsored. What'd you say?
I can't remember how you turn these lights on.
Oh yeah, it looks better already, man. Looks brighter. Yeah, we had to move around today. There's a little bit of a different setup in Jay's house here, so we had to, I don't know, just kind of do things a little different. Yo, Jeb, what's going on? I'm gonna try to adjust the angle of this while Jay's messing with that.
I can't get those lights to work.
That's all good.
Bad or something. I don't know.
Oh man, this is like way. Just bear with us a second, folks. Okay, I don't know why we got so blown out. Jay's probably gonna.
We got too much white light.
It might still be too high. I don't know. I couldn't get it to go down. Oh man, pizza. We got the pizza up in here today. Oh, that looks good, Jay. It's always an experimentation here. Always an experimentation. Always got to adjust it and try different things.
Not bad.
That looks great, man. Lighting looks good, and it's, you know.
It's the best lighting's gonna get, I think.
Learn something new every time you do it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jay, what's been going on with you this week? We actually met up for dinner on Friday,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or was it Saturday? I don't remember.
Saturday? Saturday.
Yeah, Jay treated me to a falafel for my birthday. Thank you very much, sir.
You got it.
And we hung out with some of the crew.
Yep.
And
yeah, so it was Mike's birthday on Tuesday, and then
yeah, I can't believe that.
On Thursday,
it's been so busy. It seems like it was.
On Thursday, it was Tom's birthday. Tom from Surmiser. So figured we've been talking about going to New Paltz for dinner and shit. So I kind of like just hit Mike up out of the blue and was like,
yeah.
Yo, come eat this food. I didn't even tell him I was paying for it. So he showed up expecting to spend money even.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was a good time.
Cool.
5 people crammed at the table, everybody eating falafel.
Yeah, we all ordered the same thing.
Pretty much.
Really funny. Yeah, it was a good night, man. So it was like I did the opposite, man. Because usually people ask me to do stuff. I'm kind of a shut-in.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, you know what though? That'd be fun though. I want to go like hang and because I know all you guys are really chill too, like your crew, and so it's like
we're mostly harmless.
Yeah, and I kind of know everybody a little bit, so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a good time, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Coop said, "Bless you nipples." I don't know what that means. Jeb loves the falafel. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks since last week. It's just funny because usually when I see you, I feel like we have so much to catch up on because I didn't see you in like a week, and this week it was like I feel like we just hung out, which is cool.
So you sold your Ampeg?
Oh yeah, yep. I sold the bass amp. That was good.
Yeah.
Jay had fixed that one up for me. It was a rescue project from Haprose. Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that guy was meeting me that night. Yeah, so I had an amp that I sold. That was really good. Yeah. It was really good to move it along. After plugging it in, I was like a little disappointed because it was a sick amp. But at the same time, man, I don't really play it enough. So to justify, keeping it. So
plus, what are you gonna do with a 30-watt bass amp other than like record it?
I mean, and it's not like it's not the kind of amp you want to bring out. It's like a 65.
I think it was a 64 or 5.
Yeah, and it's like not the amp. I'm not gonna bring it to like Snugs and New Paltz.
Like not unless you got like a stand-up bass trio. You're trying to.
Yeah, well, and just
gonna
the
be
fact
mellow.
that it's like this like it's basically almost like better in a studio or a museum at this point. Or unless you're playing in like Blue Note in New York.
Yeah, if you got like a little trio going with like a stick bass and some smoke and lights and shit.
Yeah. Well, that's what the guy who picked it up was. He was like this older. He had to be like in almost 65, 70, and he was just like a guy that kind of messed around. Got the impression he was kind of like probably like a doctor or something from New York. He had come up. They were Northern Lights this weekend. Where apparently you could see them.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, so
I didn't look.
I didn't look either. I just figured it was going to be too bright. I didn't feel like driving anywhere, and the couple places that I can go around by me is like pretty bright anyway,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I wasn't sure that was even a possibility.
So that was good though, and he wasn't mad that he was hanging out waiting for you.
No. I mean, it was kind of his fault because he was supposed to call me.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll call you when I get off the throughway, because that's when I went out to dinner. It was with you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy will call me, and I'll just run back. By the time I run back to my house, he should be there. And then I got there, and he's like, oh, where are you?
Well, fuck, even walking Anatolia on foot is...
Yeah, it was like 5.
Yeah. 5 and change minutes.
That's what I was saying. Like, I would have beat the guy back easily. And, but yeah, he was like, it was funny because I kind of got the impression he like kind of roped his family into going. Because, like, it was just very weird. Like, he was like, all right, guys, I'm going to go check out the amp. And they were just both in the car, like, looking at their phones. They didn't say anything. They didn't say anything to me.
Was it kids?
No, it was, like, his elderly wife and their son. It was like...
And they were both on their fucking phones.
They were both, like, one was in the front seat, one was in the back, and they both looked identical. And they didn't say a word, didn't look up. So I was like, they must, like, either, like... They're just, like, zombie robot people of... Planet Zerg with the fucking brainworms.
Fucking daddy hits me.
Or they're just like pissed that they had to like wait for 5 minutes while the guy like picked up this bass amp. It was very weird. Very weird. They were watching 424 vids. Yeah, they were engaged in the 424 vids.
So I tell you about that guy that left me voicemails about fixing a 424?
No.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Well, tell, recap. So somebody had contacted me about it, I think, and then I gave him your contact.
Somebody contacted Mike. Mike passed him along to me, and he sent me an email. Before you start,
what's your official stance on fixing 4-tracks? Are you down to do it, or you'll just kind of?
I mean, in the general sense of repairing things,
you can do it, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I just feel like I figured I should ask you that now.
I don't have time to make like all kinds of fucking heroic moves on your,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure like my pushing these people or your way or like giving you them your contacts wasn't like a burden to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But like if you hit me up and you're like, oh,
this one was different.
The head in my 424 is bad. Like I got nothing for you. Don't even ask about where you're shipping it to because there's nothing I can do.
You kind of have to like get a feel of what the problem is, and then
you sort of have no choice but to at least jump in the hole a little bit.
Yeah.
So I didn't email him back. There had too many things going on and didn't really need any more projects. And I figured I'd get back to him like this weekend when things slow down a little. But he sleuthed me out online and found my phone number. And,
which is pretty crazy because where do you... I mean, you have it on like the Facebook, I guess.
I have it on a couple places, but he
internet sleuthed Jay.
And he called me and left me 3 voicemails. So I finally kind of got pissed off about that, and I called him back like, I don't know, it was probably about 9:45 at night. I finally called him back. I figured if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to call you late and wake you up.
Yeah.
And I did. I'm pretty sure I woke him up.
Well, because you were like in a session too.
Well, I was in a session, and then I had rehearsal like immediately after.
Yeah.
Like I came home, refilled my iced tea bottle, and picked up my pedal board and fucking left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because it's like one voicemail or an email is kind of...
One is fine. I don't care. Whatever.
But that's what I mean. That's like a normal...
But like three in a fucking row. When I pick my phone up and it says 3 missed calls and they all came from the same number and there's 3 voicemails all from the same guy.
Let alone you don't even really know this guy.
I don't know him at all.
Like, it almost sounds like it was an emergency at that point. Like, if I called you 3 times in a row, there must be something really good I'm going to tell you.
Well,
I don't think I've ever called somebody like 3 times in a row.
I'm trying to remember what the old sign was that used to hang in my dad's office. It said a lack of preparation on your end does not constitute an emergency on mine.
Yeah, I love that saying.
Yeah, and it was like, whatever. So I fucking called him back though, and he was a chill dude and whatever.
Yeah. So what was the issue with this thing? Is he sending it?
No, he's in Brooklyn, and he's going to... we talked about it for a little while, so he's going to do some tests on some things before we go any further towards discussing fixing it, because I suspect that it's just a power supply issue.
Yeah,
one way or another.
Kind of simple, yeah.
But it's an MK2, and the MK2s evidently have the power supply. Yeah, I didn't know that. I said, well, just test your power supply connections. He said, I can't. So
what fucking mean you can't? That one they hardwired. The one in the middle is hardwired, and the 1 and the 3 are both separate.
So he's gonna.
Really strange. Well, at least it all shook out.
Yeah, he was a super cool dude. I mean, like the conversation on the phone was good and shit, and it was not an issue. But
it's just funny how like
it was just very weird.
Yeah.
Well, the sense I got from him was that he had gotten it in a partial trade deal for something, and he had only agreed to the deal because he really wanted the 4-track, and then he got it and it didn't work. So he's been like waiting, chomping at the bit to use this thing, and when it finally showed up, it didn't work.
Yeah. So he's like just freaking out.
Yeah, but again, I didn't fucking break it.
Preparation on your
I didn't fucking break it, so I don't know what it is that you want from me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help you fix it, but it's gonna get fixed on my timeline, not unless you want to pay the rush charge.
Right.
I'd be happy to field 3 voicemails in a day if you're gonna get that PayPal going.
There's a PayPal notification in the middle of those 3 voicemails. Yeah.
Boom! Fucking
push notification. Yo, Gabe, what's going on? You said Tascam. What's up?
But
cool. Which leads me to actually is a good segue into another thing I was going to mention tonight. 4-track FAQ. I think I was telling you a little bit about this.
Yep.
I started a FAQ on the 424recording.com/FAQ. Oh no, we'll go to just go to 424recording.com and then you'll find the FAQ link. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed anything. I added Jay's contacts. I added some of the reputable service centers in other places of the states because I've been getting so many emails, man, from people. The past, I don't know what it is. I don't know if YouTube is spitting the videos out more to people or what, but...
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That guy that called me didn't know that we do live streams and that there are videos.
Really? But I think he contacted me through... Weird.
That's what I said.
He contacted me through YouTube. Yeah, he left a YouTube comment on one of the videos. That's really weird.
I don't know, man.
But yo, Tramp Cat, what up? That's really strange.
It was a very odd one. But again, seemed like a cool dude.
Yeah,
and I gave him enough tools to troubleshoot it himself. And
I'm glad it shook out. It's always good to help somebody out.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't. After it seemed like he was gonna have a really urgent issue after that, but
Well. If nothing else, if I have to fix that thing, he'll at least have gone out and bought himself a voltmeter, because the one piece of kit that you can never live without in any situation is a fucking voltmeter that'll read ohms and shit.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty valuable.
A VOM. If you don't own one, go buy one.
Do it now.
Spend $30 or whatever and get one of those and just keep it in your house.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for changing out lights, fixtures, and things like that too, to see if there's actually, like, if you turn the electricity off and trying to figure out if that outlet's still hot or something. Just to double check. It's always worth not dying over.
You won't die anyway. It'll bite you, but you won't die.
Bit.
You fucking lick
Depends if you're
just go like this and stick your thumb in the socket and see what happens.
It's kind of like the 9-volt trick.
Yeah, except it hurts more. But yeah, basically.
Oh, we got some questions rolling in.
I know, I've been ignoring the chat. I'm sitting here eating fucking pizza crusts.
Well, anyway, real quick. So the FAQ, let me know what you think. I wanted to add some stuff to it because I'm going to start just directing people there because the emails have been off the chain this week, past couple weeks. All right, so we got Turtleneck coming through. Do you know anything about a 424 that works just fine, but sometimes when recording, playing, it just stops, usually within 20 seconds of starting?
Bad caps on the motor drive board would be my guess.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's this is a total J assessment.
If it's worse when the DBX is on, it's because the DBX active circuitry is probably stealing more current off of the supply and crashing that board. That'd be my guess. I'm working on a 238 right now.
Yeah.
The 8-track cassette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the sync cassette
8-track.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that one from?
Belongs to the guy that's playing drums with us right now.
Cool. What's he doing with it? Just looking to fix it.
Somebody gave it to him. It's in runaway mode. Same thing. It's got the caps on the driver board for the motor are shot. So when you plug it in, the cap stand immediately spools up. And it sounds like a fucking jet engine. It's like, and it doesn't do anything else because the cap stand is just running away. So that's a $115 board. But and those 122s that I just picked up may end up being donor parts for that. One of those may end up being donor parts for that. Because I'm pretty sure the motors interchange. But
cool.
Yeah. So I ended up getting those on the cheap. I didn't get them for free like I was supposed to, but I got them on the cheap.
The 122s?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was one of the other things we were going to mention tonight.
Yeah. They're both in my truck right now.
Cool. Yeah, so Jay had a... Did we mention... I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but basically, I think we may have, actually. Or maybe 2 weeks ago.
How I was going to a studio that closed down.
I feel like we were talking about it over that side of the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was the deal with it? So there's a studio up here. It closed down?
Well...
People sold it, or somebody passed away or something? I don't know the story.
So the guy that ran it had a stroke.
Oh, shit.
He's not dead. He's just not in any kind of capacity to actually operate anything. Fuck. So 2 other guys went together on the business, I guess, or whatever, and they're trying to revamp the studio and get it running. Meanwhile, the guy who used to run it still owns all the old gear that's inside of it that those guys want gone. So there's actually 4 people involved up there that are like back and forth, he said, she said, on what's going on with the gear and shit. Those 122s I went to pick up, the one guy said, yeah, come get them for free. I rolled up there, I walked in the door, I said, hey, how you doing? Here to pick those up. She said, oh, well, how much do you give me for them? Fucking Christ, here we go with that shit again. So, yeah.
What was the final tag?
20 apiece.
Oh, that's really good though. Yeah. Still though, that's like he said, she said bullshit.
Yeah, I wouldn't have ridden up there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll buy them off you, man.
I gotta plug them in and see what works and what doesn't.
Works, yeah.
I know they need to be cleaned up. That was a smoking studio, so everything's kind of.
Well, yeah. So we have access to 2 Tascam 122s then.
Yep, MK2s with the XLR in outs.
That's dope.
Yeah, they're sweet.
That's like the silver knobs on the front. Yeah.
I'll go get one if you want.
If you want, man.
I'm gonna finish being a fat fuck and eat this last piece of nugget of pizza crust. I'm just gonna make sure
the stream is still set. I look like I've had a couple of chemicals in these countries, so maybe it's funky. Yeah, we're golden. Okay, so one other thing here.
Somebody looking for their...
Yeah, SMP 7391 real quick. Yeah, so the forum, 424coordinator.com/forum. I don't know what the deal was. There's been like this inundation of it with Russian spam bots that was happening, or just spam bots that are from like the European region based on the IP addresses. So I had to block all the automatically. We used to have just like a nice, underground forum that people didn't know about, and then somehow the Russian spam bots infiltrated the.
They fucking found us, Jesse.
Yeah, they found the auto approve. They're making accounts and then posting links to sexy singles or some shit. So brilliant. I basically blocked all new accounts. But SMP, if you just let me know what your username is, I'll be sure to find it and approve it for you.
So I want to answer a couple things here before I go get that 122.
Yeah, Matt. Let me get a timestamp on this. All right, Cold War nerd, sick. I'll prove you tonight. So I actually might be able to do it right here. Okay, so 21 minutes in. All right, Jay. So Matt's question.
So Matt, when things, I don't know, like, all right, from the top. So when you record a band, you have to decide aesthetically how many microphones that requires, right? We all know that. Record a drum kit, 1 mic, 28 mics, who the fuck knows? So that starts your track count. And in the virtual world with a DAW, especially, although you could slave up enough things like enough ADATs, and you could technically slave 2 or more 2-inch tape machines together and have, whatever. What the fuck is 62 tracks or whatever if you slaved a bunch of them. Anyway. Most of the reason that your track counts in a DAW project get above 24 is because your musicians are overthinking what the fuck it is that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at all those like old Stax records where they put a mic like this in the middle of a room and balance people based on the mic position.
Those rough mixes I played you before, those are up over 29 tracks apiece.
Oh, really? For a 2-piece?
It's a 2-piece band with 29 tracks, and we don't even have the backup vocals in it yet.
Oh, wow. That's wow.
It's a fucking lot.
It is a lot, yeah. I mean, I try to limit, whenever I do surprises, like 8.
I don't really ever try to limit it, but I do generally fight the artist if we're pushing past 20 on a...
Personally, I just noticed for me, like, if I'm going above 8, the song is generally... The song structure, the song writing element needs to be reworked.
But in the modern context with, like, big-time pop production and stuff, 72 or more tracks is not uncommon because, the kick drum for the choruses will have a track, and, all the different pad synth sounds that come in and out and shit will have assigned tracks, and, 25 vocal layers and the ghost singer that came in to carry the harmony and, all that kind of shit. So the reason that track counts end up that high is because people know that they can go that far. If all you had was 8-track 1-inch or whatever, and like, or half-inch, whatever the fuck, that was the brick wall when analog was the thing. If your machine had 4 or 8 or 16 or 24 inputs, that's what you could do. That's it. But now that it's unlimited, all we got to do is double click in the fucking margin and more tracks happen. It's like, But
yeah, so it's like 48, 72.
John, the way that you mix that without losing your mind is you mix as you go. If you don't edit and mix in at least rough mix things as they come to you, when you get into that many tracks, what you end up with at the end really to try to sort out is just this jumble fuck of things that don't work. You really have to, as the sound for that track is being set or picked out or whatever, you sort of like have to figure out what its context is going to be as it's printing, and then as soon as the pass is okayed, you need to do whatever you have to do to make that drop in, or it needs to go, whatever. But
you're talking about like mixing something with that many tracks?
Well, John asked, how in the world do you mix that stuff without losing your mind? And if you mix as you go, it'll never drive you nuts.
Right. Well, I mean,
the reason it bothers me more than anything is because that's a lot of elements to try to make sit someplace and still have any kind of prominence. And also, when you get into like high track counts like that, especially if you got stuff that you're stacking effects and all kinds of automation and shit on, like that's a lot of CPU load. Like the more tracks you stack, the closer you get into the brick wall limitation of what your CPU and your RAM can handle.
Right.
And then you start getting dropouts and glitches.
Stopping, right?
Yeah. Well, like Logic for me, when I get up above about 35 tracks, I get like the pinwheel. Mm-hmm. So I'll like
Rainbow Wheel of Death.
Yeah, so it'll be playing, and I'll hit space bar to stop, and I'll get a pinwheel, and it'll just keep fucking playing. Like, whatever.
That's mad.
But
yeah, I mean, I was in a band with this guy. Well, he was in another band, and we were kind of jamming some stuff out. And I'm not going to mention the band, but he said they were working on a song for 5 years, and he said it had over 500 tracks.
Nope.
5 years.
Nope.
500 tracks.
Oh, that's
I can't even believe
that was 4 years and 11 months too long, and about 400 and
that's what I'm saying.
80 tracks more than it should have had in it.
Yeah.
Because what are those elements? I mean, how long is the fucking song?
I don't know. I think in those 5 years you could have wrote 500 tracks.
Probably could have. Yeah, it's
500
crazy.
songs.
That's fucking crazy.
And I guarantee that the last 10 of those would be better than the last 490.
500 tracks, you literally could have stacked every single note individually of every single chord in a 4-minute song.
I know.
Like, this track is just the B.
It's like a perfectionist mentality.
It's just the note B on the A string.
Yeah.
That's all it's on that track.
Right.
Think about how ridiculous that is.
It's crazy.
I don't know why you would do it.
That's what I mean. That's absolutely mad.
Was it Axl Rose? That's funny because that's the first thing I was fucking thinking.
I'm not sure what
Chinese democracy.
I hope I'm not exaggerating the amount of tracks, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Take like fucking 3 hours just to open the project.
I just don't understand like why anyone. I understand. Like I feel like
I don't get it.
I've worked on a project. I mentioned this. My old band, Electricians. We used to play in New York and stuff. A couple of years, actually almost 10 years ago now. And we spent a year writing and recording our album. And it was like you said, it was 11 months too long. But hey, that was the folly of my youth. That was like what we thought we were trying to do. You know, we had recorded at a studio, didn't like how it came out, and said, "Oh, let's just do it ourselves." And the next thing you know, it was a Pyrrhic victory, you know. Like by the time we finished it, it was like we almost weren't even a band anymore in that sense, you know.
Yeah, it's not.
And it was like, why did we spend a year doing it? But I mean, it taught me that don't be a fucking perfectionist, and a lot of times, like.
Well, but you know, you have to qualify that too, because there's a difference between being a perfectionist and striving to get something right. So if you have to play a guitar pass 5 or 10 times to get that noodly thing that your pinky does in the bridge right, to me that's not really perfectionism. That's you trying to make your performance be what it is intended to be because you couldn't do it the first 9 times. Perfectionism would be if you went back through and edited out every little fucking nuanced thing that you didn't like in a track and punch something else back in there, you know, and you're snapping everything to the fucking grid and trying to make everything as linearly perfect.
I mean, I guess that's
as
not
possible.
What we were trying to do. Maybe it was just the way that because we can only work on it like on the weekends. It could have just been the nature of the project.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, it wasn't that we were trying to do that.
Yeah.
Because like I've never believed in like taking advantage of the computer. You know, like to like rope together performances.
I certainly have had.
But
go ahead.
I'm not really sure where I think I kind of ran out of steam on it.
Yeah. I certainly have had instances where exactly what I just said happened. You know, it's like there's this thing I do in the bridge, and like the whole bridge pass is great, except for like that one thing, because for whatever reason I can't nail it down while I'm sitting there watching it go by on the monitor. I mean, I think everybody who plays guitar and records music has been there. It's like, you know, who the fuck knows? Like, you're switching from, like, I don't know. Maybe you're switching from, like, F minor to some kind of weird fucking C chord, and, like,
but at that
you're
point,
just not
like,
getting that 7 transition. Who the fuck knows?
I mean, for me, I feel like the biggest frustration with that is that if I'm at a point like that, it means I haven't practiced enough. And I need to, like, why am I recording something if I can't play it?
But there's been a lot of times where, like, in Surmiser, you know, we've played a song a certain way, and then we've sat down to record it and realized that, like, what we thought sounded like it was working sonically live doesn't work. You know, like, the parts in the grand scheme of things in a big room sound cool, but like when you put it together and you listen to it in context. So, I mean, you're doing productive, you know, production rewrites like on the fly then.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm starting to think, I think that makes me realize, like, when I was working on the thing for as long as I was, it was like an expectation thing, you know. We were all expecting this was going to be like the record that we made, and, you know, was going to be the thing that put us on the map, whatever that map was. That wasn't a very well-defined map, but it's interesting. Because, I mean...
What's going on there, Bobby?
Hey, Bobby. We always talk about perfectionism, you know, it's like... But now I'm starting to think, like, maybe that was more expectation. I mean, we're trying to get some sort of perfect picture that we thought was perfect, you know? And
well, to me, perfectionism is like...
that process.
But I feel like perfectionism is like...
I think just one last thing before
go ahead. Yeah.
Like, I think perfectionism, at least in my personal definition of it, is bad when it inhibits you from completing something. Sure.
Agreed.
Much like having a song that's 5 years old and has 500 tracks.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
It's a lot of wasted time.
But to me, it's like, you know, I'm using that example of like the pinky thing that you're supposed to play in the bridge that you can't land. Like, if you can't land that, so you have to keep fucking with it until you can finally land it, that to me is not perfectionism. Perfectionism would be you played it the first 20 times and you landed it every time, but you're still looking to land it just right.
And you're hearing something that nobody else is hearing.
Yeah, you're just splitting fucking hairs on something that's totally pointless.
Yeah,
you know?
Like something that's obviously like a fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be something that's like steamrolled and even now. But yeah, something where it's like you nailed it and now you're just kind of like chasing you're like keep moving the goalpost.
Yep.
Hey, what's up, Dennis? He says 1 o'clock here, fighting sleep, just dropped the phone on my face. Hey, be nice to you, man. North Anchor, hola, what's going on?
Yeah, I think you can make mistakes and some interesting things can come out of that and you know, I think we've all been there. You land a chord fucked up, and you're like, ooh.
And that's what makes the song sometimes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't tell you how many... I mean, that's something I've learned to kind of, like, roll with is, like, those happy accidents, you know? Like, sometimes you do something a certain way. Like, there was something I was recording the other night. I'm working on a new album, and it's coming out in April, I guess. And it was, like... There's like certain ways I did a take, and it was like there's no way I could have thought to do it like that, and it was like a complete fumble. And I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. That's definitely staying in there. We missed one question from Trampcat.
Did we? Where at?
What do you do when you try to record over a track and it comes out low and distorted?
Clean your fucking tape heads.
Yeah, I think it was in reference to the 4-track.
I'm sure it was.
Jay, you're knocking them out of the park tonight, man.
Well, I mean, that's where I would start.
Yo, J-Rad, he said, nice hair, Mike. Oh, thanks, man.
Should I go get that 122, or does nobody else care about that at this point?
Yo, I want to see it. I put it in the.
That's what she said.
Dude, I put it in the in the title, man. We gotta.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to.
I'll go get it. No, it's right down here.
All right, cool. We got. So Jay, if you guys are just joining us, Jay recently acquired a pair of Tascam 122 Mark IIs. You said, Jay?
I believe they're both Mark IIs. Yeah.
Cool. So he's gonna go grab them. They're in his truck right now.
I'm just grabbing one.
He's gonna grab one of them, so we could just show you guys what's up. But it's pretty exciting. He was saying there was like a studio closing down, or the guy got he had a health issue, and people are sort of, looking to clean his place out or get rid of some stuff. I guess somebody else took it over, so Jay was able to get a pair of 122s for a good deal. He said they need a little TLC. Unfortunately, they came from a smoking facility, a studio, not a building that's on fire, but a smoking facility, smoking recordings facility, and yeah, so that's exciting. Yeah, Bobby, we've been chatting about. We were catching up. We were talking about these 122s Jay's grabbing. I was talking about the website. If you're just joining us, I added an FAQ section on 424recording.com because I've been getting a lot of repeat questions. So if you can think of any good questions that you think people ask a lot, or maybe you've read through the comments and see people ask them a lot, let me know, and I will definitely add them to the FAQ. Oh man, that thing is beautiful
in all of its funky glory.
Nice, man.
Let's maybe not do that.
Nice, dude. I love those knobs on that thing, man.
Yeah. Definitely needs a good cleaning.
Yeah, it looks a little.
It's just like it came out of the racks and shit at their place. So.
That's crazy, man.
Still ejects.
Got the XLRs on there.
Smooth eject, even.
That's dope, man. Nice, man. I can't wait to get these things moving, bro. Awesome. We got the 122.
I don't know if anybody's even tried to power these fucking things up.
Looks like it's spinning. Yeah, so Jay's back.
So this has got the capstan runaway on it too.
Oh shit, Bobby. Wait, we missed a lot all of a sudden. Oh, John said it gets that way about bass lines. 7 different things. And come back to the simplest thing. Yeah, dude, for sure. Hey, Gil, what's going on? Good to see you. Skizzo joined the chat. What up, Skiz? Oh, yeah, happy birthday, bro. Happy belated B-Day. Matt is 37 yesterday. Congrats, man. Another March baby, man. My birthday was last week. Matt's birthday was this week. Dope. Bobby said, I just returned from Sam Ash with the Teenage Engineering OP1, and damn, it's going to be a while. Get this. That's awesome, dude. Jody let me borrow his, and, uh-oh, we got a light out. We got the motors just going or something?
Yeah, it's doing the runaway thing just like that 238 I've got still.
Some caps, probably.
Yep.
Cool, cool. Oh, Jason's going to bed. All right, Jason. Catch you later, brother. Yo, Mr. Basic, what up, Ken? That's awesome, Bobby. Yeah, the OP1, I've been meaning to do some vids on it. I actually just used it in a song I was working on. Very cool sounds on it. I need to work on it some more. I'm a little bit. It's a lot, man. It's a lot in that thing, but it sounds really cool. I love the synthesis on it. There's the 4-track tape machine on there. Well, it's like a digital 4-track, but it's got like a little. I've been meaning to do a video on that. I just haven't had much time to mess around with it, and the learning curve for me has been a little steep, to be honest. So it's a very cool device, though. I think you're going to really enjoy that, Bobby. Let us know how that goes. Yeah. So, well, So, what's your assessment of the 122 so far?
It's got a runaway capstan issue going on, from sounds of it. But I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see once I crack it open.
We'll have to maybe we'll try to fix it on the live stream next week. I don't know about that. Yeah. Bobby said I like it, but looks like I'm gonna watch. Yeah, Jody mentioned the videos on the Teenage Engineering YouTube channel. Those are the ones I've been checking out. They're really, really well done, really streamlined, really to the point. You can watch them in order, basically running through all the different features. I think I watched the first 4, and yeah, those are done really well, and they're done by the Teenage Engineering the crew or the CEO or something. So I would definitely check out the Teenage Engineering YouTube channel for those tutorials on that. I recommend. Have you done a tutorial for the Gray 424? Hey, what's up, Backwood Guts? I actually I had one on the on testing it out. I think it's called How to Test Out a 424. I meant to do more videos on it, but my tape transport is fucked up in that one. So I've only been using it as a mixer so far. I don't know, maybe Jay will take a look at it for me at some point. But when I do get that fixed up, I will definitely do more on it. But there is one that runs through some of the basic features of it. It's kind of a longer video. I think it's called How to Test the 424. But that's really the only one, unfortunately. But thank you. I'll definitely consider that for future videos once I get the thing working right. J-Rad said my 424 Mark III is kind of noisy when rewinding fast forward. Is it the tape?
It's probably the tape. Take the tape out.
Yeah, take that tape
out.
out.
And see what it sounds like. Probably scrubbing in the cassette.
Mods now have to approve. Okay, we got a mid-roll live stream. Jay, what up with that question?
Go.
He said, I think this is on YouTube. Matt said, the birthday boy said, mods now have to approve comments containing the F word. What up with that, Jay? I guess YouTube's flagging.
Really?
The F word? I don't know. Not really sure.
What the fuck is that about?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I've been catching a lot of flack, I guess, recently.
Fucking Mormons buy that shit?
I don't know. From what I understand, like, YouTube really doesn't even mind if you curse. Like...
Why would they?
Unless you're, like, doing it, unless that's all you're doing. But, like, they don't really mind that, from what I understand, in terms of, like...
There are several YouTubers we watch routinely in my house. And all of them are colorful with their language.
Yeah. It's not really a big deal unless you're, like... So that's really odd, but I don't know. Jay, what up with that?
I don't know what's up with that. That's just fucking some censorship bullshit. Keep dropping your F-bombs.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to approve you. Don't even worry about it.
Weird. Oh, shit. I'm on Top Chat again, as usual. I don't think I've been seeing this. Oh, they're only doing that for some channels. Doesn't have to be set that way. I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like YouTube rolled out the new update and Studio Beta. Maybe I can adjust that. I'll see if I can. Because, I mean, I don't mind if people are laced with profanity.
I don't know.
I think that's kind of weird.
I think for people that speak that way, that's just how they speak.
Wow.
That's always my excuse anyway.
Really? 2 streams ago? I'm trying to think what happened 2 streams ago. Not sure what would have changed. All right, I'll look into that. I'll have to write that one down.
And I wasn't even on for like, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, so.
F-bomb moderation. Yeah, it's true. I don't know what's up with that. Wait, I think I can check that now. Let me see. The YouTube Studio dashboard.
Yeah, I watched the Albini video last Friday, I think.
Broadcast alert? No.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll look into that. We'll approve F-bombs and give the mods a break. We won't screen the F-bombs. So, all right, wrote that one down.
John, we used that making the one full-length Surmiser record that we made. That RNC is on the drum overheads. For what that's worth.
Oh yeah, this Show Us Your Junk series. I think we did.
Have you seen the Albini one yet?
No, it came out.
Just came out last week. Yeah.
I've had a slew of Albini videos pop up in my YouTube feed lately. There was a new one. I think he was talking about remixing In Utero. It's kind of a blurb about it. And then the Show Us Your Junk one. So maybe he's being recommended based on my other interests. I need to check that out. I've been meaning to take a deep dive into that Earthquaker Devices series. Looks
like Albini has really mellowed out in recent years.
He seemed pretty mellow in the video I was watching recently too. Yeah.
I kind of feel like he got older. He kind of thickened up a bit, and settled as fucking cool as shit. I'm sure he's still just as pissed off and cynical as he ever was, but I think the years are maybe starting to get to him a little bit by watching some of the more recent things,
In like which way? Like he's mellowing out?
He's just sort of. I think he's sort of burnt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have anything to prove anymore. I
don't think he ever had anything to prove. If you listen to him talk, it's not like he was really
that's
like
not the right assessment.
No, I think he was always sort of like flying by the seat of his pants, but outwardly cocksure. Fake it till you make it, kind of. And then when he finally
did... That's what I mean. Maybe he already made it,
Well, he made it a long time ago.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like once you hit like a certain...
He made it in 1980, what was it, 1983? Surfer Rosa came out.
Right.
He was already set then. But, I don't know. He's an interesting guy. I have noticed that in recent interviews and stuff, he is much mellower when it comes to the interviewers also, because I remember watching some interviews past where he was like tearing people up like about their grammar and shit. It was kind of funny, It's like, it's kind of weird.
That's weird.
Some people I know that have met him also said that like he's one of those kind of guys that like if he doesn't feel like you're speaking the same language, he's not very interested in being in the room talking to you.
I mean, I can get that though. It's like when I was listening to a podcast, Freakonomics podcast about quitting.
About
and
quitting
it's
what?
Sort of related, just about quitting anything. Like how quitting is usually seen as a negative thing, but it sometimes can be the best thing that you can do. And I guess my correlation to this conversation is that, I mean, for me, I think you only have so much time, right? And there's like an opportunity cost associated. And even with just sitting next to somebody, listening to somebody who is not furthering your goals or desires, or is not on your level, or taking your energy. So like to just be able to cut and run from that, I think if you have a very clear picture of what you want and where you want to go, even just something as simple as, it doesn't even need to be quitting big things. It can be quitting small things, like a conversation with somebody where you're trying to go do something else. You know what I mean?
Well,
because I'm sure, somebody like that, his time is better spent doing other things that are generating whatever he's looking to generate in terms of his energy and time. So
well, they work like 360 days a year or something. I mean, it's like,
that's what I mean. Yeah, like when you're on that sort of a schedule, it's kind of like you don't really have time to sit and chat with somebody for 15 minutes about bullshit if they can't even like, if they're not on your level of talking with you.
The guy I know out there was selling audio products as like a rep, and he went to electrical and he met with Steve, and Steve asked some very specific technical questions about like specifications of the product, and
he didn't know.
The dude just didn't know, because that's not his field. He doesn't talk the jargon and the scientifics of things, It's like,
oh shit.
It's not that he's, he knows gear. He doesn't know it quite to that level,
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much was the end of the conversation.
Wow.
It's just like, doesn't do anything for me.
Well, especially something in his like industry like that,
Yeah. But Albini himself is, from what I can gather anyway, watching interviews and things, he's like just short of an electronics nerd and just short of being a professional acoustician. And, it's like he knows so much about everything that has to do with that industry. Mm-hmm. That, like, if you can't hang within that little circle that he's created, just there's not gonna be anything there for you.
Right.
So, I still hope to go there and meet him because I'd love to have that showdown.
That'd be super cool. Fun. That'd be super fun. Let's do it. Fuck yeah. Especially now he's mellowed out. You could probably get him on the stream, man. I've seen him do some interviews with
probably fucking
smaller channels and stuff.
We'd probably both leave thinking the other one was an asshole. Kind of seems like that's how that would go. But, yeah, I don't know. You know, with the compressor, I see, I forget who said it, but something about...
I think kind of the cost.
No, there was a comment about if I could use a compressor for anything other than ruining something. Yeah, John said if I could actually use a compressor for anything other than ruining something, I'd get one. John, the trick to the nuances of compression is just listening. Like, if you can't get a sound through it while you're tracking through it, then you should be mixing through it and experimenting with it that way. Compression tends to really ruin music when the ratio is jacked way up and you're nuking the signal.
Unless that's what you want to do.
Well,
with like something like the distressor.
But if you know how to set a compressor, you know how to do that or to not do that.
Sure.
But if you don't know how to not do that, then, like, let's say you're compressing a vocal, so set your ratio at, like, say 3-to-1 to get started. That's a fairly good average for, like, live sound work anyway. Set your release sort of maybe 25 to 50% somewhere so that the compressor hangs a little bit depending on the pace of the vocal and the song. And then play with your attack somewhere in like the 2 millisecond to 10 millisecond range probably. Like the first third of the dial on most compressors. And, put a good strong vocal through that and adjust the threshold until sort of moderate peaks are just grabbing that compressor. You're just reducing like a dB, let's say, of gain off of a moderate peak, and harder peaks should be ripping all kinds of gain out of that. But that's the easiest way to learn. Set it moderately.
He's getting a pen. Yeah, that was at like 50 minutes in too. I'm making a note too, so that we'll know that, if anybody wants to go back and check it out, or well, I want to cut it out and use it for something.
For me, I learned to use compression in the live sound field. Although I had been using it much longer than that in the studio, I didn't really understand what the fuck I was doing until I started mixing bands live. Yeah. You can hear it through a PA when you have 20,000 watts behind that compressed vocal that you got going on. You learn how to set that compressed vocal the right way.
J-Rad likes the compressor on clean guitar and bass, but not Vox.
Yeah,
depends what you're trying to get.
It really depends on what you're doing, and it also really depends on
the compressor.
Well, the compressor, and also on what effects are on the vocal track. Because if you set your compressor right, and let's say you're in a DAW and you have, let's say there's a plate reverb assigned to your vocal, right? And it's set post pan, which makes it post fader. There's a phenomenon that exists in that configuration where if your vocal peaks hard and your compressor is set right, it will actually suck the vocal back into the reverb. You ever do that?
I think I've heard you tell me about it.
Yeah, I'll have to show you how to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, it takes 5 seconds to make it do it in Logic. But what that essentially does is all the hard peaks that would, like, instead of being in your face, would, like, literally, like, poke you in the fucking eye, it takes them the other way. And it's not like, you're hearing the compressor squash like it's pumping out. It's like it just, when that hard thing happens, it goes, and then if your release time is set right, it's back for the next thing. But
that sounds like it'd make for an interesting video.
I've mixed whole records like that.
Glenn Fricker swears by the RNC. That's the guy that yells at you?
Yeah.
I finally realized when you said that.
I like him. He's funny.
Jay kept asking me when I would talk about videos, but is that the guy that yells at me all the time?
John, the expander's job is similar to what the compressor does, except the compressor is supposed to make loud things quieter by ratio. The expander's job is to make quiet things louder by ratio. So if you put, like, that's one of the new things I've been fucking around with a lot on the guitar bus, is putting in an expander set a certain way and then putting a compressor right after it set a certain way. So that what you end up with when you print that is a guitar track that's like this. And it's not to destroy or remove the dynamics. The track still has the dynamic. But the idea is that, like, it makes the whole thing a lot more controlled dynamically. You don't lose the quiets and the dips and the valleys and things, or the attack or any of that. It just gets it into a place where it's more immediately controlled. So I'm finding that, like, with guitars, I'm running an expander with a compressor after it. I'm doing a whole lot less automation on things, and really, like, doing actually a whole lot less EQ too, because I'm not trying to notch out things that would have poked out and stabbed you in the face, because the expander is doing this and the compressor's doing this, so the things that would pop out go whoop whoop. So it just, I don't know, it's cool.
I gotta show me these tricks, man.
You've heard them already.
Yeah.
The new Irish band CD was tracked that way.
Okay.
And this rough mixes I played you today are done like that.
Cool. That's great.
Although I feel like those rough mixes might have a little bit too much limiter on the end, but we'll see.
Okay, well, that's so that sounds like you do have good mic technique, Jeb. Should I try to move away from the mic with loud stuff?
What about compressing the bounced master track?
Is that the release setting?
What about compressing the bounced? So, Bobby, what do you mean compressing the bounced master track? Like the master of a mix?
Yeah, you must mean that, right?
I would think so. You generally, though, in that case, wouldn't necessarily be compressing it, but more limiting it. So the limiter allows you to add gain and to pump things up and make them huge, but to still keep them below the threshold if it's brick wall. And brick wall is what I mix against. But if you wanted it sort of to be more nuanced than a brick wall limiter will allow, I think most times in that instance you're probably going to set like the ratio pretty low. Again, probably like, I don't know, 1 to 2, 1 to 4, something like that. Not super crazy, because you don't want to smash it.
Yeah, I think that's what Jeb sounds like. Jeb, because the next question kind of leads into that. With the compressor, I cook the whole thing and can hear the breathing between lines. Is at the release setting. It's like pushing up all the quiet parts at that point.
But if it's pushing up he's pushing up the quiet parts at that point, back your makeup gain off. Back off the makeup gain. Because the makeup gain will be adding gain to the signal even when there's no compression happening. So like if you're listening to the compressor and you're hearing all kinds of breathing shit, but you're not really noticing the compression itself, then you've probably got too much gain going. You know, like start with your makeup gain at like whatever. It's usually about 12 o'clock or whatever, the zero-ish setting.
Oh, yeah, he's saying I don't want to hear the thing working.
Yeah, if you don't want to hear the thing working, then set your attack pretty fast. Set your release sort of, fast to moderate. and you know, don't get too crazy with the ratio. I mean, the more gain reduction you apply, the more obvious the gain reduction is going to be. So like with a vocal, you don't want to hear it pump usually unless you're doing it for effect. So set it 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4 maybe. Set it up like that. And with the threshold, if you're really hearing the smash from the compressor, then back the threshold off. You know, if your threshold's at -30 and you're smashing the piss out of everything, then roll it up to -10 and back the makeup gain off. Yeah. In theory, a compressor set right shouldn't need more than a few dB of makeup gain. I mean, unless you're really smashing. But it also is the modern thing to...
People are like, that's kind of like the...
Well, the modern thing is like you didn't record it hot enough, so you put a fucking compressor on it and you turn the makeup gain up, and so now every track has compression.
Yeah, and everything is super.
Run those fucking tracks right into the red.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like the modern, like you said, that's the modern loudness wars and all, getting into all that stuff now.
You heard those mixes, those drums?
Yeah.
Every single one of those fucking drums when you hit it is in the red.
Really?
Promise. On the track, red. Like, not like +30 so that like fucking smoke's coming out of the interface, but like, you know, like +0.5 or +1 or +1.5 or whatever. Sure. I find that I much more enjoy listening to drums that are somewhat saturated, either based on compression and limiting or because they're recorded good and hot. And I have yet to clip the Focusrites hot enough with the setup that I have to make digital distortion out of it. So
nice.
I let them run. Always sounds better.
Yeah, it depends if you really hear it or not. I think when it comes to digital distortion.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the times where I've had it happen, you can hear it. The whole thing sounds like there's fucking bees in it.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like the guitar's got bees in it.
Hapro sent me this track he was doing today. I guess he recorded it, and he was asking me about something that was clearly clipped, and I was like, he's like, how do you get rid of that? I'm like, can't get rid of it now, man.
Well, that's not true, though. Was it a guitar track?
No, it was a vocal.
Oh, you ain't fixing that?
Yeah.
Nope. You can compress it and make it seem like you did it as an effect.
As an effect. No, this is like kind of a quieter.
Oh, yeah, no, you're not fixing that.
It's like
nope.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I was trying to, because like if you record it like that, that's unfortunately, going to be what it sounds like. Third Island, what's up? No sounds. Uh-oh. Did we come loose here?
Oh, mic's still on.
Let me check.
Oh, there's sound here.
Yeah, we got sound there. Unless that was in reference to something else. Maybe he's asking a question.
So where were we?
What's going on, Third Island? If you can hear us.
Yeah, but all right. So use the compressor. Okay, so.
Let's all save up money and take a trip to electrical. I like that idea. That would be sick.
Skiz, that multi-band deal, like everybody, I've met engineers that like use multi-band compressors on each drum in a mix and shit. It's just fucking crazy. Like if you're gonna multi-band compress something, be really fucking careful about that, because that's a really good way to lose all the good shit in your music. So like when I master something, when the multi-band compressor is brought into it, it's like just little hairs of shit that you're pulling out. If you take if you got let's say it's a 5-band multi-band compressor and you grab that like low mid band and jam it through the floor, you just ruin the mix. So you got to be very, very careful about that. Because they will destroy what you have going on sonically.
I mean, the one thing I like to mess around with them is usually only compressing like the really low and the really high. And that sometimes can have an interesting effect.
Yeah.
Depending on where you set it.
But you, like I said, you really got to be careful.
Well, I mean, I feel like with any compressor in that kind of stage of the process, like it's almost like easier to fuck it up at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
basement mastering. Yeah.
Has anybody seen the Dirt movie on Netflix, the Motley Crue doc?
I just saw the trailer for it, but I didn't watch it.
Anybody? I think maybe next week we'll chat about that. But very interesting little documentary they got there. I never really knew much about Motley Crue. I'm not really sure when it was produced because I feel like it's pretty close to Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know if it was. It's probably been in the works for a while, but it's interesting this resurgence of, or maybe just it's just time has passed enough. So now that there's like these rockumentaries on all these bands, but I mean the acting wasn't amazing, but it worked for what they were doing, and kind of an interesting story. North saw it, nice. Yeah, I thought it was cool too.
I want to just step back for 1 second on that on the compression thing. So Skiz said limiting compression won't bring out the nuances of quiet things. It's more for just setting a volume ceiling. It is for setting the volume ceiling, but it also is one of the most powerful tools you have, especially if you're working in a DAW, because that limiter has the ability to add, thunderous overall volume, but also the saturation that is fairly common in modern rock productions. Like you enable that one plugin and set your output ceiling and then crank your gain. I mean, you can make a track that sounds really small and kind of, doesn't have a lot of cojones to it. You can fucking pump that shit up and make it blow the windows out with just that one plugin if you're careful with how you set it. So, while I agree that it does set the overall ceiling, there's a lot more to it than just that. And it can also push the nuances out because it's adding the overall volume. But I'll say, be really careful with how you set the limiter too, because the limiter can grossly smear your mixes if you mix against it too hard. So your best bet is to get your rough mix put together to average mastering levels like -10 or so to -6, and then put the limiter on it. And then that'll give you an idea of what mastering would sound like. And if you're not going to master,
yeah, I usually print it like that if I'm doing a session with somebody. If they want to take the tracks, I'll put the adaptive limiter on there and get it at a level that might be close.
John, the limiter providing the glue factor is sort of the reason that I started mixing against one. One, because I like big fat saturated sounds, but also because it makes the mixes a lot more cohesive than mixes done without it. And in some ways it's sort of like a cop out almost, I feel like sometimes, but I don't fucking care. I like what it sounds like, so yeah. I don't give a shit.
It sounds good, it is good.
Cop out all the time, no problem.
Third Island said he's got a Tascam 44 reel-to-reel if anyone's interested. Just refurbished it. Cool. I think that's a 1/4-inch one, if anybody's interested. Yeah, this has been a fun talk on the limiting compression. I like when we go there. I feel like kind of the best way too is to just load them up and just mess around with them in the DAW and see what happens. I don't know. At least that's for me. Hands-on learning is usually, I don't know. I can read something in a book 1,000,000 times, but until I go to actually, I guess I don't know. I know it's a certain type of learning. I guess hands-on learning or something. But yeah, some people are visual, auditory learners or listeners or whatever. So
right.
I don't know. Maybe that's that's how I learned to do it too. It was just messing with it enough and checking out presets and the starting point, or why did they do this? Why is it called this? Well, why does it do this? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree that compression can smear all of the instrumentation, but if you're...
Yeah, the compressor is basically the main tool, I feel like, for the EQ and compression are like the two big things.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that if you can't EQ it out, you can probably compress it in. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, one way or the other. If somebody were to hand you a bunch of tracks, if you can't EQ the shit out, you can compress them to a point where they work with something.
Right. That's a good point.
So, yeah.
Never thought about it like that.
And most studios, I mean, like, even analog spots, you know? You go to, like, a good analog studio and look at what the racks are. They're compressors, limiters, and there's a console that has EQ in it.
Right.
Yeah. That's pretty fucking much it. There's a plate somewhere probably, and
yeah,
you know.
That's actually something I've been using a lot lately. The Sound Toys little plate. I think it was a free download at one point. It came out maybe last year. That thing's sick.
I think that's a model of the Echo plate, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Echo plate's a good sound.
That's really useful though for like mixed bus stuff, or just busing stuff. What do you do with mastering your stuff? Just send it to a master tape?
That's got to be either for them or for you.
Oh, in terms of the 4-track, you know, I've thrown it into the into Logic a lot of the times, and like the stuff on Me and the Machine. Some of the tracks on that are on the cassette, and yeah, I usually just master it in Logic, but I want to, now that I have that tape deck Skiz sent, I want to definitely do more master mixes like that. And I think especially if you're going to be, the thing I'm working on now, I think it's going to be mostly Logic, just because I don't have time to like fuck around with the tape stuff. But you know, especially if you're going to be putting out cassettes, J-Rad, I would say definitely try to get to a master tape and just avoid the digital realm altogether. Because there's something about, I don't know, I found printing stuff into the Logic, bouncing into Logic, it like flattens it.
Oh yeah.
It loses like something, like whatever the magic is on when you're listening to it on the actual tape, definitely disappears. You know.
Although, riddle me this: how hot do you do your bounces?
I mean, usually around like RMS 12, peaks at 6, like pretty standard digital in. Don't like try to hit it too hard, or you know, try to get that sweet spot of the digital.
Try hitting it harder.
Yeah.
Try hitting it harder and see if you find what you're looking for there.
That would be a good experiment. Good video.
Because I'm telling you, when I was keeping things like in the Logic green or yellows, I don't even know what the fucking levels are. But when it's in like the green or just into the yellows, like the safe zones, right?
Yeah.
Like I always hated the way that fucking sounded.
Huh.
I mean, if you let it fucking slam, then I get what I want.
Interesting.
I know you're not supposed to do that, but I don't care. I'm sitting here telling you that it works right now.
Hey, I think with all this stuff, like audio and sound, it's very subjective, you know?
So,
if it sounds
John,
good, it is good.
Yeah. How do you move something back, like a backing vocal? How do you move that back in the mix? Is that compression
Reverb,
too?
baby.
Well,
get that.
That's not necessarily true, though. I mean, you could do that with EQ. You could do that with compression. You could do it with reverb. You could do it with a combination of those things. If you wanted to try to do it with EQ and make it less pronounced and prominent, therefore further back in the mix, you listen to it and figure out what its most obvious resonance are, what its frequencies are, where it peaks in the bands, and start cutting those bands. You know, go in like the 800 to 1K range someplace and start notching shit out. Pull it down. You can make that vocal all but disappear that way if you were really so inclined, without ever having to smash the dynamics of it or put it into any artificial space. Like but a tiny bit of reverb or a little bit of echo or even some modulation. I really like a super slow flanger, you know, low mix. That'll pull shit back into without noticeably adding like, flanger swirl.
Because I think with the EQing things like that too, it's like you're trying to soften it, which is, I mean, that's usually the goal of when I'm putting reverb on something that I'm trying to push back, is that
sure.
It's too like sharp.
Yeah.
Not like note wise, but just it's too like right in your face, and then like when you get that reverb on, it kind of smears it, or it kind of like softens it, and it gives the perception of it moving further away from the listener. Mm-hmm. So that's true. I never thought about to do that with EQ though too. You can do that with it too. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you know about like peaking a band and sweeping it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just do the same thing, but take those resonant bands, and instead of like just pulling out the ones that you think are garbage, listen with a wider cue to the ones where the vocal really exists.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's going to be in that 800 to 1K range, definitely, and there's going to be something, you know, I don't know, probably down around 80 or 100 or somewhere in there. But grab that upper mid-range one first, set it high, and figure out exactly what that band looks like with the cue, and then drop it through the floor and watch what happens.
Yeah.
Because if you eliminate,
I can definitely like already picture that.
Yeah. If you eliminate the peak resonances of a source, you essentially eliminate that source, or you at least draw it back into the sound field from where it would have been. You know, I think a better challenge would be to figure out how to mix a batch of, let's call them elements, together without using any reverb. You know, in the digital realm, it's so easy to just like bust the shit someplace or whatever. But like, I think that's gonna be my next experiment.
That sounds cool.
I'm gonna set up a project and do a full mix with no reverb on it.
Dude, that sounds like a video.
That's a fucking challenge right
Anderson's, there. Channel, man.
That'd be a fucking challenge.
Different question coming through from Brubaker. What up, Brubaker?
Yep.
Any experience with a radial direct drive or a ADA GCS5 DI straight into a Tascam? Trying to record ampless and find the right tools.
I don't know either of those products, unfortunately.
Yeah, nor do I. I mean, the only thing I've ever used is either direct in or the Sans amp, the original old school OG Tascam, the original OG Sans amp. But that's going to be pretty gnarly if you're going for, you know, like a lighter, or, you know, not something that's like a distorted sound. But I don't know, Matt. I feel like Matt would have a good. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, Matt said he's got the New Neighbor, Iconoclast, and Moore radar. Huh? Never heard of either one of those. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming through, Brubaker. Appreciate the question. Appreciate the hanging out with us in the chat tonight.
Yeah, I second the Sans amp also. Bobby said Sans amp.
Yeah, I love it. And I feel like it's funny because I feel like it works really well with the Tascam, especially because, and it might just be my own perception of it, but they came out around a similar time. And they seem to just complement each other really well, you know. So if you can get your hands on one, I mean, I know there's like a reissue. I never tried the reissue one, but I mean that's the name, right? Sans amp. So that's the whole idea.
Yeah, I get kind of tired of like the reverb swamp. You know, I used to mix with like tons of reverb, and I'd have a couple different things bust out so that I could apply different shit. But it's like,
Well, I think the thing with reverb too is like, I feel like you can always tell somebody. I mean, not that I'm like. I mean, I've been mixing a while, but like I know just from my own personal experience, when I mixed when I was younger and didn't know as much, I overused reverb, and I feel like you can always tell when somebody, unless it's for like a very dramatic effect, like something in like Jesus and Mary Chain or whatever. Well, you know, you can tell somebody who's like a novice or just starting to do it because they overuse reverb, because it's so easy to use reverb to
mask or fix things.
Yeah.
But have you ever mixed in an environment where you couldn't hear the amount of reverb you put on something?
No. Wait, say that again?
Have you ever mixed in a room where you couldn't hear the amount of reverb you were applying to something?
No, I've only ever really used digital or like in terms of just like a guitar amp, but it's usually been near me and going back and forth.
No, but I mean where you, through the monitors, you were not accurately hearing the reverb that you were applying to something.
No, I can't say that I have. What's the deal with that?
So
what's the deal with that? Or what's up with that?
The first actual control room I worked in, one where you could close the door and be isolated from the band and all that. There is a null spot in that room where if you sit in just the wrong position in the middle of what would be mix position for playback, and you do your aux mixes for your reverbs and things, what you're printing off has about 75% more reverb on it than you think it does.
Wow.
So I used to do like drum mixes down there, and I'd be like, fuck yeah, and I put it in the fucking car on the way home, and holy shit, it sounded like it was recorded like in a fucking canyon at the end of a cave underwater. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't even know what the fuck. Like, yeah, there's a snare drum in there somewhere, but he's way the fuck back there. Yeah. It's like, like, Jesus. You know, it was fucked, man. Huh. So be careful about that too. Just like on small monitors or with the wrong angles or the wrong proximity setup, it can be hard to monitor what your mid-range and your lows are doing. Reverb can get away from you like that too.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, like, especially when we were recording, I think with the Tascam that time, I don't know if we were streaming it or not, but I don't think we were. I think we were setting up. And I remember you were like, because I noticed I did this after this, because I always tend to go too far with, like, distortion, reverb. Like, I've noticed this about myself, and I don't know, maybe this is kind of, I feel like it goes along with what we're saying, and it always seems like I need about half as much as I initially put on, but like for some reason I have to, like, it's like, I don't know, by going too far I realize, but now that I know, now I kind of realize, like,
and that, my friend, is why we as engineers get to do things called rough mixes.
Yeah. Good point. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm always like go a little heavy on things, and then I realize actually, it sounds just as good or better by dialing it back. Same, like reverb, I was working on something with some reverb on the vocals today, and it needed a little bit, and I put some on, and then I was like, oh, it sounds really good, and then I was like, wait a second, and I like brought it back, and it sounded like.
Well, like I said, those roughs I played for you tonight, like I'm feeling like those might be a little bit like over limited even by my standards.
Really?
So I think I'm going to go back to those roughs, and I'm going to roll out a few dB on that gain on those master limiters and see what opens up. Because I think that'll be the difference. Yeah. There are like parts where like the mixes sound big and they hit really good, but there are also parts where I'm thinking that, like, you know, there's like a little bit too much smear going on for some of the things. But I don't know. Time will tell. But it already sounds better than their last record, so maybe I'll just fucking leave it like that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I know. I think. Yeah.
They even said that, by the way.
Yeah, I remember you told me that. Yeah.
So, I'll take it.
That's awesome.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, you know, the harder you hit the strings, the harder it breaks up. That's why I love the Tascam. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Turtleneck, I would say you're...
The Pog, Jeb, I just remembered. You said, didn't you say there was a pedal you thought you didn't need a bass guitar anymore? I think I remember you saying something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was messing around with the Pog from EHX after Jay got me the right adapter because the person sent me the wrong adapter with it. Yeah, that's pretty cool because you can do like octaves and stuff, and I've got some really cool, almost like Paul McCartney-ish, like Hofner, plunky sounds like that. And it really makes me want to get like a silver tone bass. But yeah, the pedal's pretty cool. But, you know, sometimes you can hear it tracking because it's like, you know, those octave up, octave down kind of pedals.
It's a little sloppy.
It's a little sloppy, yeah. It's a good way of putting it. So, but yeah, I've been gassing for perhaps a new bass.
Uh-oh. What are you going to do with the old one?
I was thinking about letting it go. You
should call old Tom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's been wanting a ripper?
He has asked me about that several times.
About mine in particular?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a sick one. I just like, I mean, it's like you can't get the sounds. I've always wanted one, and I've had one now for a long time, but And you just can't get, like, some of the sounds that thing gets is, like, I've never had a bass that can get the type of sounds it gets. But, yeah, I've been wanting to, I always kind of wanted, like, a Mustang bass, like the short scale neck ones.
I would go play one of those before you buy one.
Really? Yeah, I was going to go play, like, go to Alto or something. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get one, but, and gas for me usually passes or works out really quickly. So I got to, like, I mean, I got to really just justify getting it. But, yeah, I was thinking, because, like, they have these new ones that are, like, $500, and if I sold the Ripper for twice that,
it's worth at least that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I would really spend some time playing those because they tend to not sustain as well, and they're sort of like, I feel like even with new strings, like the one that Tom had was still kind of like plunky, and yeah, he had a Japanese one. I think it was Japanese.
Yeah, I gotta definitely try them. I mean, this I've always kind of wanted one of those, and it's just like my setup right now. Like my setup is kind of small. And the kind of bass lines I'm playing, I just feel like, I don't know, I kind of want something with like a shorter scale. You know, I always wanted a Rickenbacker too, but that's just out of the.
Yeah, fucking A, Jesus.
You know, and I was actually, because of Scott Pilgrim is why I wanted to get partially get a Mustang.
Yeah.
Because in that movie he has a Rickenbacker, but in one of the scenes that I think the basses sound cool, there's like a dueling bass scene.
Yeah.
If you read the liner notes or read the I forget this trivia or something, it says that they purposely switched the bass tracks. So like when the one guy is playing the solo on the Mustang, it's actually the Rickenbacker, and when Scott Pilgrim is playing the solo on the Rickenbacker, it's actually the Mustang. And I fucking love
that's funny
that sound and that part. And it's like, that's when I was like, oh fuck, like I don't know. Anybody have one of those out there? I think it's like $500 for the new ones. I don't know. I mean, you know, I'd like to get a vintage one, but you never know the status of them. And if I can find a used new one, but you have to play them like anything else.
Yeah.
But you think they're just too plunky sounding?
I mean, for me, but you might like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sort of like.
I feel like for the stuff I'm doing at this moment, it would sound. It would work with it.
Well, the vibe of the Silvertone is definitely sort of on like what I would call the brassy and sort of plunky side anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why, because that
so aesthetically that bass would probably work pretty well.
Yeah, because like I feel like that's what the Silvertone sounds like through the Pog, and I really like that sound. And that's I've always wanted an old Silvertone like dolphin head bass. Like I don't know if you've ever used those or heard about those.
No.
I think the 144 or something. I forget the number or the name of it, but it's like just like a black. It kind of looks like the Silvertone. It's like a black bass. It's very similar to the Silvertone, the Silvertone guitar.
So going back up here a little bit. John said, "Love hate. I have love-hate with the bass guitar. It seems like it fights the drums on everything, but you just need it. Can't not have it." Excuse me. And I agree with that, but you have to figure out why your bass is fighting the drums. You know,
only one person can be the king there below 100.
Yeah,
that's how I like to think about it. Either your bass is going to be lower than the kick, or the kick's going to be lower than the bass.
But you also have to think about overall headroom, because those two instruments have so many coincidental frequencies that you can't make one duck away from the other all the time, every time, because you just end up with something that's weird and unnatural. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So you have to figure out how to make them share the headroom that is available in the mix without.
Somebody's got to be the king, man.
But that's not always true, though. It's not always true. Like with your, you know, like your kick drum, right? Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of shit in your kick drum that doesn't fucking need to be there, and it's going to be right where the bass guitar is trying to be at.
Right.
So like the kick drum I have in the studio is a great example of this.
I'm saying like below a certain frequency though. There's like
right.
One of those instruments I think has to be more prominent than the other.
Right. But so like the shell that I use, the kick drum I use in the studio.
The orange one?
Right.
The Ludwig?
There's a resonant frequency in that around 230, 235. So like if you left that flat line in the 235 range, it's eating up all kinds of headroom in that cue, let's say. But if you cut that out of the kick drum, now the bass can do more things in that range. You know, it's the complementary yin and yang kind of relationship that you really got to look at there. You can't always do it, and when you can't do it, that's when you use the ducker. You know, if you have a bass line that was recorded that doesn't have, you know, if the top end is lopped off of it because the bass player played it with the tone control rolled off, all it has is low, mid, and lows. So it has no place else to go. And now your kick drum actually has more spectral bandwidth available than your bass guitar does. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
So now you got to cut a big fucking chunk of a hole someplace in your kick drum so you can even hear that bass guitar.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times with bass too, like what I feel like what a lot of people want more of, and I've experienced this with bands and recording stuff, is like actually more upper mids or like mid mids. Then it's like you think bass, you're like, oh, I need more bass, but like what really makes it stick out is like that SVT fucking like gnarly sound, and that's.
Take your bass, shelf 60 down hard off. Cut that shit right off.
Yeah.
Because you don't fucking need it. It's all subsonic.
But that's what's, you know, the ironic part about mixing bass and thinking about bass, because you're like, oh, bass, I need this to be bassy, but actually you want it to be like mid heavy.
What you have to understand about bass is that while we call it bass and we assume bass is always low end, bass is nothing more than a different octave of your guitar. Right. So forget about low frequencies for a minute. It's like if you took your guitar range and you moved it down, what, one, right? It's one octave below?
I think it's more. I think it might
or is
be
it
more,
two?
Yeah.
Whatever. So if you took that range and just plunked that over here, it's still the fucking same range except it's missing 2 strings. But it's still the same notes. It has that same dynamic character. There are highs and there are lows in it. There's both bass and treble in existence in every single note you play on the scale of that instrument. It's not just low end. It's not a synth pad.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because like it's not just like some bass.
So you should be approaching your bass mix sort of like you approach your guitar mix, unless you're mixing hip hop or club music, which is something totally different that I'm not even into.
But then this also leads into the next part too, because like I know you've run into this with the Surmiser stuff. Is like now once you do that with the bass, and now what do you do with the guitar?
Well,
because then those start to get to a point where they're like somebody's got to be the
but most
top dog.
Times with the Surmiser stuff, either my tones are super fucking bright anyway, or I'm playing simple riffy stuff underneath and not progressions.
Right.
So it tends to not matter as much. And then the times where we do climb up the ass of a riff, like it's the chorus part and things get heavy, we're probably both playing, he's playing my roots or whatever. I'm playing the chords of his roots. I still keep that separation because my tone is still brighter than it should be. And then, you know, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
You know, the guitar, you got to make sure your guitar is not missing information down in the 150 range. I know a lot of engineers that will just hard shelf the guitar at like, you know, 120, 150.
It really
just cut it right the
loses
fuck off.
something.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, I'm a big fan of hard shelfing the subsonic shit. So like in your kick drum, cut the 40 off. You know, go higher than that if you want. Cut it off up to fucking, you know, 60 or 65.
Yeah. It's
unlikely that you're going to miss it. And even those subsonic frequencies that you can't hear, well, yeah, obviously because they're subsonic. But even those frequencies that you can't hear can eat up headroom in your mix.
Yeah.
Because there's still energy there, even though you can't process it. You know?
That's why I would like and advocate listening to when you're shelving something and hearing, okay, when I hit this point,
you can hear it.
Now I'm losing something, but back here, from here to here, oh wait,
right.
I can't hear a discernible difference between what's here and what's not.
Yeah.
And you can always add that shit in. That's, I've seen when I saw Grizzly Bear, they played in BSP.
Mm-hmm.
They had the loudest fucking like sub bass shit like hitting your chest.
Yeah,
that was all kind of like synthesized.
Yeah, it was all patch it.
And it was like, because I was in a band with a guy that like I don't know why he liked to do this, but he shelved off all the fucking bass guitar and his kick drum. He was a drummer, and then he would add in like sub bass stuff. And I was like,
I don't know why he'd bother. You know why he would bother? Because he couldn't figure out how to shape the curve enough to get what he wanted out of the drums. That's why.
That makes a lot of sense.
What he should have probably been doing in that instance, instead of carving all that off and adding subsonics back artificially, probably should have been gating that kick drum. Because you get the chest pound and the attack, and then you get nothing.
The other thing was he was mixing it to sound really good just in his truck. Which I don't even want to go there.
Oh, that's interesting.
With that whole situation, but not that I'm salty about it. I don't mean to be coming off salty, but it was like I was kind of like.
Oh, I thought you meant he was like live mixing. I didn't realize you meant he was mixing like a record that way.
Yeah.
So he's like adding subsonic synthesis to the records.
He was cutting like all the low end off. It got to a point where I just said, "Do whatever the fuck you want." Because it was like we were butting heads, and I was like, I had tracked it. And I thought it sounded sick. I made a really quick mix because it was like, the style of stuff I do is like, I get the shit right before I mix it.
Bang it out and go home.
And then tweak it a little bit and then it's done. And this guy was like, I had printed a mix that sounded fucking sick. Everybody agreed. And then he was like, oh, actually, I want to try this too. And he wound up mixing the whole fucking record like the way you're doing it. It took him months to do it and it sounded like shit.
Yeah, that's no good.
And the other guy always wanted to remix it. And I was like, dude, you fucking sided with this guy on the way to do this, and now you want me to remix the thing? Like, fuck you. Because you realize that one mix that I did of it sounded better than the whole fucking record the guy spent months doing. Anyway.
Yeah, there's no reason to add that synthetic shit in unless you're doing that style of thing.
I told you so moment. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, unless that's like the aesthetic you're going for, it's like, this was like a fucking like rock punk, like post-punk jawbox kind of project. It wasn't like...
So basically you let the kick rip, you carve off some of the mid-range so that the bass and the guitar have some place for their low end to sit, and you shelf the bottom off it so that it doesn't blow the fucking speakers out the first time you crank it up.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
And for whatever reason... Anyway,
see, this is the thing.
Salty.
Like,
I'm salty then.
I remember when I first started recording, digitally and shit. I was always trying to figure out how to like make that kick drum like really fucking like when you put it in the car stereo,
like
pound and shit. And it's like, man, it's so easy, but it took so long to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's horrible. But
well, because I think it kind of the whole conversation we've been having for the past 20 minutes, 15 minutes is like. Sometimes you don't realize that it's easier to do that than it is not to, but you just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, like carefully,
like you said, if it's like
careful shelves, careful notches, make all the fucking difference,
Yeah.
But it also
depends. Funny, man. I feel like I'm finally getting to a place where I feel like confident in what I'm like doing and talking about this stuff. Whereas like never used to. It feels good, but.
Yeah.
It's just funny because I just don't want to be. I don't want to be I don't want to be like unhumble about it. I don't think that's what I'm being, but
no.
Yeah, I guess you just get to a point where you're like confident in what you do, and there's nothing wrong with that.
For me, it's that I got to a point where.
Or you know what you want, and you just
where I finally can get what I've always heard in my head.
Yes, that's the point I'm at too. Yeah.
And. Now that I'm here, pretty much like everything else in my life, I don't really give a flying fuck what anybody thinks about that.
Yeah.
That's the sound I want to hear.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Exactly.
It's like I've said before, I kind of want... I've been on this kick lately trying to make everything sound like if Steve Albini had recorded Portrait of an American Family. Have I given you that analogy yet?
No.
Have you heard Portrait of an American Family? Do you know that album?
No.
Marilyn Manson from like the Early 90s.
No.
Yes, or mid 90s.
I think that was like
their first record.
Huh.
It was produced by like Trent Reznor's Camp. Like the drums were programmed by.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Charlie. Forget
what is it? Portrait of
an American Family.
Dude,
it's some really dark shit.
I never got into Marilyn Manson.
I love that record. The rest of his shit can fucking suck a dick, but
Portrait. Okay.
Portrait is.
I know what I'm listening to on the ride home.
Portrait is a good record to me for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I always thought once you hear that record, you'll understand the analogy. Then just imagine that record, but if Steve Albini had recorded it instead of some like dickhead in Dayton, Florida, or whatever. And, they like recorded. Is that
where that industrial scene is like based, like Florida? Like where did that stuff all come out of?
They came from there.
Where's where did Trent Reznor where is he from?
That I don't know. But so they had a drummer. I don't know. They had a drummer and they recorded the record with that drummer, and then they decided they didn't like it, so they I can't really get a clear story on it. They either took the master tapes, multi-track tapes, to, I think Charlie Clouser was the guy's name, keyboard player. They took it to those tapes to Trent and deleted the drums, or they re-recorded it again over the programmed drums that this guy Charlie did. I think the first case makes more sense. Like, he took the acoustic drums that the guy had played out and put this in. If you listen to it, you can hear it. I was always trying to figure out, like, because like the kick drum on that record is like, it sounds obviously like sort of triggered when you really listen to it.
Yeah.
But like growing up listening to that in like headphones and shit, it was always like, man, how the fuck they get that kick drum sound? Because it's got like it's got like all the fucking punch and ass you could ever want, but it's also like crispy on the high, but not like in an unpleasing way.
Yeah.
But it's like if you could take like 2K and put it at like a ice pick cue and send it through the ceiling to infinity. So it's like, like we top out at 24. Like if you could send it to like 400,
I gotta listen to this.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's this and this, and there's not really much going on in the middle.
Huh.
Yeah,
I mean that's like that beater frequency.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. I always was like sort of enamored of that record.
I like that story of like, man, how did they do that? Like, I was like, you didn't realize that it was electronic, right?
It took me fucking years to realize that's what happened there.
That's awesome.
But
I love that.
But it's pretty interesting stuff. But that's sort of been the kick that I've been on recently, is to try to make things sound like if Steve Albini had recorded that record. I'm not doing a great job at that. I'm kind of more making it sound like like late 90s pop punk shit, I guess. But
Trent is from we're getting conflicting reports. Bobby said Chicago is the industrial scene. Okay, that makes sense. That was going to be my guess. J-Rad's peacing out. Good night.
His old house in the French Quarter actually belongs to John Goodman now, just so you know.
Oh, I saw that when I was a couple of years ago when I was in
Me too.
New Orleans. Really cool town.
Over near Magazine Street, I think.
Like where that cemetery is, where they shoot like all the movies.
Mm.
Matt, how's your hand doing, man? I was meaning to ask you about that. He said, when I get my hand back, I'm going to try reamping. What I've done so far seems to work fine. Is there a need for a reamp box? That's a Jay question for sure.
Wait, where are we?
So I think it's the second to last one on my chat. Matt.
Get my hand back here. Is there a need for a reamp box? So that's kind of the answer to that is not as cut and dry as you'd like it to be, as I would like it to be. The reason that you use a reamp box is because that reamp box simulates in some way the induction of the pickup in your guitar, right? So that has a reactance with reaction with the input impedance at the front end of your amp, which changes and colorizes the sound. So that's part of the deal with the reamp box. It's, you know, it drops the signal level down, obviously. It makes things controllable. And you absolutely can reamp shit without a reamp box. That's how I learned to do it. I found a DIY for reamp boxes and built that shit. But I started without one, just running line outputs into the front end of a Pro Reverb, you know. It's fine. Just when you hook it up that way, make sure you turn your send volume down so that you're not destroying the front end of whatever your amp is. Because I guarantee you, if you do that with a solid state guitar amp and you run that output bus into the red, that you won't have that solid state guitar amp for long.
From experience.
Actually, my experience with that was we had a keyboard player one time playing through like a cheap bass amp. And this was in Parachute, which was like the punk band I was in with Tom in like 2004.
Say, man, every single one of your bands has like the best fucking names.
So that band, we had a keyboard player. It was Tom's girlfriend at the time, and she was playing keyboard through this piece of shit bass amp that the singer had brought over, and I think it survived like maybe 2 practices.
Wow.
With like a really hot line level output from the keyboard. So be cognizant of that, because op amps don't really take too kindly to square wave inputs at high level. But, you know, there's no reason you can't do it anyway, long story short. And any of you that might happen to have a deluxe or a Hot Rod Deluxe with the power amp input, or if you have a combo amp or an amp that has a power amp input, run your line level from your DAW into that fucking thing and dump that into your cabinet. That's meant for line level inputs. Effects loop return, same shit. And yeah. But there's absolutely no reason you have to have a reamp box.
Well, Matt said he's doing well. He said surgery last Thursday stitched up the tendon. Pain is pretty well gone. Nice, man. Good to hear you're recovering.
I'm still kind of cringed out by that whole fucking I cut a tendon with a fucking X-Acto knife thing. Every time I look at my X-Acto knife in the house, I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It's one of those, like, you get that feeling, you know? It's like, oh.
Have like this fear of
I'm getting there, Bobby. He said Mike looks extremely tired.
Yeah.
We're rolling pretty light tonight.
It's fucking cigarette time like crazy.
Yeah.
Should I be using a direct box for keyboard to a mixer via quarter? You talking about into your Mackie mixer, Matt? In the case of your Mackie mixer, the 1/4-inch inputs are line level, so just run it in line level. You can use a DI and run it into the mic input if you need to, but there's no reason you have to.
Has Albini done an Easy Drummer or Tune Track? That's what producers do. They make like drum
I fucking
packs?
seriously doubt it. That seems like it would be so beneath him.
Yeah, that seems like the last thing on his list.
I mean, he's
to do.
sometimes
I'd buy that though.
Sometimes he gets thirsty, but I don't think he's that fucking thirsty.
I mean, they try to get there with like the some of those fake Logic drummers. Like I think if you put Max on the right kit,
you get the Albini
There's like
sound.
a kit that sounds like that. Yeah, that's funny though. I would wonder. I don't. Yeah, he would never. Would he think he'd ever do that? I don't know. I mean, what's his name? Fucking always put shit like that out. That guy, Steven Slate.
Oh yeah.
He's always got something new he's hawking. He did.
Really?
Oh my god, I gotta look this up too.
I can't even fucking believe it. He must have been hungry that month.
Let's see. Oh yeah, so next week let's chat about Can you check out the Dirt Motley Crue movie? Everybody check it. If you have Netflix, check out the Dirt.
I mean, I guess I could.
I think it'd be fun to talk about, you know.
Are you gonna watch it too, or is this just like my
I already watched
homework?
it.
Oh, you did watch it.
I did watch it.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I thought it was interesting. I'd like to talk about it with fellow music nerds and people who are into like music.
I mean, stuff. I'm gonna tell you this. I know enough about the Motley Crue story to think that
I know nothing about it.
I know enough about the Motley Crue story to know that, like...
You could probably tell...
all those guys were fucking scumbag.
Right.
Pieces of shit. Unequivocally. Like, you want to see what garbage humans look like? Look in the dictionary. It's a picture of those motherfuckers in the 80s. Like, yeah. And they weren't the only ones.
Yeah, I mean, that whole scene of dudes.
That's a bunch of fucking... So...
Yeah, this is new.
I mean, yeah, I guess I could watch it. But.
Well, I mean, I didn't realize you felt that strongly about it. I didn't really know the story. I'm honestly, the thing I wanted to talk about was a big part of it was why did they choose Motley Crue to make a fucking movie about when there's
everybody
the pantheon of bands.
Everybody everybody in Motley Crue has done a fucking biography, autobiography, some shit, except for Mick Mars because he's too physically fucked up to write. I think.
Right. You can voice dictate, right?
Maybe, I don't know, but
I think you're right now that you mentioned that because not the Mick Mars thing, but the fact that there's so many books out about it. I just think like if you were gonna make a rockumentary about any rock band, like to me, I mean, right now there's two big ones that are out. You had the Queen one, which was cool and made sense, and it was really great to see. And then you have a Motley Crue one. Like, why is that the two fucking like the ones that you have movies about? Like, I want to see a fucking David Bowie rockumentary. I want to see like Brian Eno rockumentary. I want to see like, I don't know. I would see like a Zeppelin one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
Neil Young. Like, there's so many fucking awesome rock-oriented bands that you could have done a movie about. Why did you do a Motley Crue one? Nirvana.
The Nirvana one, because of licensing, you'll never get.
But right, I think know there's like other ones done about that, you know, right. With like, you know, different people. But I'm just giving the point. There's so many other bands, even just from the '80s, man.
But like, Motley Crue in the last 5 years or so, they're done touring. They're not recording. They're not playing anymore. It's done. But
to me, this is like the Marvel movies, right? You have.
But it's franchising.
Spider-Man, that makes sense.
But it's franchising. Heroin Diaries, whatever Vince Neil's fucking book was called.
Makes sense, Like, Tommy why the fuck do you have an Ant-Man movie?
I mean, it's, I don't know.
This is like the Ant-Man movie coming out second out of the Marvel universe of Marvel movies. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Like, yeah, you could have an Ant-Man movie like 10 years into the fucking the extended universe, but...
Yeah, I don't really know what the reason was, other than the fact that, like I said, those guys, I'm sure are, especially Mick Mars being all fucked up. I'm sure they're grasping for money just like all the rest of these aging musicians.
I guess it's been in the works for a while. It was purchased. The rights have been going on for years. But like, out of all the bands to make a fucking rockumentary on Netflix about, it's not like I don't know people that are personally like, man, Motley Crue, like waxing nostalgic about Motley Crue. You
want to take a ride to Kingston?
I just figured there would be other bands before them that people would be more.
But
I don't know. I could be out of touch, man. I'm not with the trends. Okay. I don't know.
So let me tell you how I think this works.
Okay.
I suspect that somebody sat down and said, "I want to make a biopic about a band." They made a list of 25 bands. They went number 1, nope. Number 2, nope. Number 3, maybe, Number 4,
can't get the rights. Yeah.
Nope. And then they got down to like 24, and it was like Motley Crue, and they're like,
that'll work.
And they called up, and they were like, "Hey, is this Vince Neil's people? I think I want to do a biopic about this band." And then they fucking said yes.
Right.
I think that's how that happened.
Right.
So like the Queen one was probably like number 4 or 5, and that got green lighted, and like a couple other ones down the list.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. That makes me feel a lot better. Yeah.
Like the David Bowie one was probably on like number 2, and his camp.
Right.
Said,
I would think like
fucking go screw. We're not doing that.
Out of like a lot of people, especially if you have a Queen one, and like that era music.
Yeah. Well, there's a Queen David Bowie tie-in, so you go.
Well, that too. Maybe that's why I'm thinking it, but because I was kind of pissed that they didn't even like mention him in the Queen bio. It's like, the fuck?
Nope. Did they at least... I haven't seen that still. Did they try to, like, touch on the Trident Studios thing?
What was that?
Where Queen was at Trident.
Is that like the one in England?
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about that a little bit.
It's like the other studio in England, the one that's not Abbey Road.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about that a bit. I think that's where they were showing Freddie Mercury writing, like, Bohemian, starting to write it there.
Yeah.
I mean, all this stuff is like fictionalized, whatever. But
sure,
it just baffled me. I don't know if
I don't know why you would choose Motley Crue over.
Okay, like, that's really the main thing I want to talk about.
I think
we don't have to watch it. That was
I think it really comes down to, well, now I'm kind of, my interest is peaked, so maybe I'll watch it. But I feel like it's literally what I said. It's like, like you go down the list and eventually you reach the lowest common denominator, and that's Motley Crue. It's like. Yeah.
It's like what's available. What do we want, but what's available?
Well, it's like being like young teenage boy, right? And you go to like every girl in the class. Hey, we go to dance with me. Hey, you go to dance with me.
Yeah.
And finally, like you're out of everybody, right? So like there's that one like, I don't know. It's like the smelly kid or whatever, and you're like, hey, you want to go to dance with me? And she goes, okay.
Yeah.
And now you're fucking stuck with her stinky ass because fucking she's the only one to say yes. It's the same thing. You got stuck with stinky old Motley Crue because they were the only one that said yes. Does that help?
Yeah, that really sets me at ease, man. Like I was really struggling with this since I saw it. Oh hell yeah, biopic on butthole surfers. I would definitely like to see that come to Netflix next month.
Oh man,
good stuff, man. That was good. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the,
biopic on the butthole surfers. That would be like, fuck. It'd just be like you send everybody a little blotter sheet in the fucking mail, and then when you log into your Netflix, there's a video that comes on with a whole bunch of weird colors and a megaphone, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the answer to the whole equation. What were the butthole surfers like?
They all like lived in a car with a dog at one point.
All pie-eyed fucking drug addicts. Yep. Anywho.
All right.
I need a cigarette, so if you want to keep talking to them while I do that, cool. If not, we should probably.
Yeah, guys. I guess we're gonna hit it.
Okay. And I also got to pee.
Yeah. We're like a half hour over. This is crazy.
I know it.
So I was gonna say, Matt said, Mike, all the big YouTube guitars are already reviewing these movies. Sorry. Well, we had to talk about it. I'm not, I had to know. Honestly, that really solidified all I wanted to.
Good enough summation.
That's what I wanted to talk about regarding the movie, and you really broke it down for me, and that's one of the big reasons I come to you.
Break it down
for these kind of advice, because you always set me straight.
But I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe there was like just some super fan out there in a production company that was like, "You all get to make that." I think it
was something that was, from what I understand, it was like in the mix for like almost a decade, I guess. And that's like you said, like, well, we want to probably after the Queen thing, or maybe it was happening concurrently, but
I don't know. Vince Neil probably owed somebody like alimony or child support or something, so he sold the rights to it. And
right.
Two guys been fighting over it in like a fucking California fucking comic book store for the last 15 years about who was going to make it. And that was it. But yeah. Alright, so do something you want to do each and every day. And
it's that time of night.
You can email him, Mike at 424, Mike
424
recording at Gmail, right?
That's it.
And me, Operation Audio at Gmail. And I'm sure we'll have something.
Yeah.
Some more interesting shit to talk about next week.
Hell yeah.
And until then, make sure you feed the pig. Nobody even said anything about it. Or what was this?
Especially Mac DeMarco. Yeah.
The Mac DeMarco pig.
Where's the Mac DeMarco? Oh wait, there already is one. Wait, what about the My Bloody Valentine documentary? We got to see that one. I thought the talk about perfectionism would have surely brought up the Kevin Shields, but
never happened.
So I guess we'll play him out.
Yeah.